So this is Teaching for Women. So I'm going to talk about the name, the true name of the Messiah, because the redeemed of the Lord, the servants of God, has the Father's name written on their foreheads, okay? And Jesus is Baal. And your Messiah warned you, and John 5, verse 42 and 43, because you don't have the love of God in you, which is an idiom. I know you don't keep the commandments of God. 1 John 5, for this is how we love the children of God, when we love God and keep his commandments. For this is the love of God, to keep his commandments that are not grievous. He says, I know you don't have the love of God in you. I know you don't keep the 10 commandments. I came in my Father's name. Yeshua, or Joshua in English. Fulfilling what was prophesied in Deuteronomy 18, 15 through 19, which is also Jehovah's testimony of his son, that if you don't believe the testimony that he gave of his son in 1 John 5, verse 10, you make him a liar. The son could do nothing of himself but what the Father had sent him to do. The Father testified that his son would give us everything desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly. His commandments, in Deuteronomy chapter 5, verse 22, he gave the 10 commandments, his covenants, and he added no more. The mercy his son would perform, and the covenants he would remember. In Luke 172, magnifying his Father's commandments. Isaiah 42:21. He was well pleased for his righteousness' sake. He would magnify the law, make it honorable, magnifying the 10 commandments, and do righteous judgment, love your neighbor by rebuking the sin out of them. Matthew 22, verse 36 through 40. The lawyer asking him, Master, what is the greatest commandment in the law? They had, love the Lord thy God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might, magnifying the 10 commandments, quoting Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5 verbatim. Write the commandments on your hand for a sign between him and his children, right? Also, his Sabbath is also a sign between him and his children. Sign in the Strong's Concordance is mark, the mark of God on his children who love him and keep his commandments, who he keeps mercy, who he gives mercy to. Daniel 9:4, Deuteronomy 7, verse 9 and 10. Keeping covenants and mercy with thousands of them who love him and keep his 10 commandments. And Leviticus 19:15 through 18, to love your neighbor as thyself, is to not be respecters of persons. Don't honor the poor or do not respect the poor and honor the mighty. The royal law in James 2. Fulfill the royal law according to Scripture, according to Leviticus. Love your neighbor as thyself, you will do well. But if you're respecters of persons, you commit sin. Because if you're respecters of persons and you don't do righteous judgment, you don't rebuke your neighbor when they sin, you hate your neighbor in your hearts. Leviticus 19, verse 18. Do not anywise hate your neighbor in your heart, but rebuke them, so they don't suffer sin upon them. Love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Magnifying those 2 commandments in the law, fulfilling Deuteronomy 18, what his Father testified of his son, that he would send in my name, he said. Jehovah is the Father. Yeshua, Yah, salvation is the Son. Zechariah 3, Romans 5, Joshua in English. Joshua, high priest, had the same name as Joshua, son of Nun in the Old Testament. Joshua, his English name. John 5:42, I know you don't have the love of God in you. You did not receive me. He came in the Father's name and you didn't receive him. Joshua, or Yeshua, but there will be one, an Antichrist, that will come in his own name that you will receive. That is your Baal Jesus, who came in his own name. A transliterated name for the Greek translated to the English is still Joshua. That is your 2 Thessalonians 2, man of perdition, because the church is prophesied to fall away. They fall away, go apostates. There will be a falling away first, and then the man of perdition will be revealed. You're Jesus, who will have intelligence with you because you forsake the holy covenant. Daniel 11:30. With flatteries, once saved, always saved. The man of perdition who opposite himself of God. Jesus changed everything. You can eat swine's flesh and broth of abominable things. He's made all things clean. You don't have to keep the food laws. that Jehovah gave to all mankind are perpetual covenants with the rainbow still in the sky today. Genesis 6-9. To eat clean, to not eat the blood therein, that was given to the Gentiles in Acts 15, to refrain from idolatry, fornication, things strangled in the blood, the Noah covenant. Isaiah 65-66, those that have swine's flesh and broth of abominable things in their vessels, that say, stand by thyself, I'm holier than thou, the Christian church, who sanctify themselves in their own righteousness while being ignorant of Jehovah's righteousness because they've established their own righteousness in Romans 10, breaking Jehovah's 10 commandments by their traditions of men, what Yeshua rebuked the Pharisees for in Matthew 15 and Mark 7, breaking Sabbath every Saturday, when his Sabbath is dawn Saturday to dawn Sunday, that we're supposed to keep by the fourth commandment in Deuteronomy 5, as Jehovah has commanded. His sign between him and his children, a perpetual covenant for forever. That's what perpetual covenant means, everlasting, with no end. And Exodus 31:16-18. By your traditions and commandments of men, your Sunday worship. Mixing the profane with the holy, your Jeremiah 10 Christmas, your Jeremiah 7 Easter, worshiping with your hands, doing pagan idolatry, observing the winter solstice. He says, do not be dismayed by the signs in heaven. Do not learn the ways of the heathen round about you. For the heathen are dismayed by them. Idolatry, the sin unto death in 1 John 5. The sin unto death he dares not pray for. Little children, keep yourselves from idols. Acts 15, the Gentiles told to refrain from idolatry, fornication, things strangled, and the blood. Jesus says, worship me with your hands. Cut a tree out from the forest, bring it in your house, nail it down so it doesn't topple over, and deck it. Deck the halls. La 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 la. Oppositing himself of Jehovah, who you say is God, who says he's God, that's worshipped over God. Hosea 2, the second Exodus, the woman who prepared her corn and wine for Baal. The corn and wine Jehovah gave her, she prepared for Baal, Jesus. Romans 1. And to an image of a corruptible man and creepy things. Your Christmas, your Easter, your jack-o'-lanterns, your... So he gives you up to your own reprobate mind, who's deceived by lying signs and wonders, by their dreams that they tell everyone and their neighbor, Jeremiah 23, so that they forget Jehovah's name by their dreams. They forget his name for the name Baal, Jesus, because they say Jesus is God. We are the temple now, 1 Corinthians 7. And Jesus, you've asked into your temple, into your hearts. Who sits in his temple, in your temple? So he puts you under a strong delusion so that you will believe in a lie because you've forsaken his holy covenants. You refuse to keep the 10 commandments. You listen to your Jeremiah 23 pastors who teach you burden of the Lord. His commandments are impossible to keep. No man can keep them. Luke 1, John the Baptist's parents kept the commandments of God and were blameless in the sight of the Lord. His son gave you those 2 commandments in Matthew 22 to love God, keep the 10 commandments. Love your neighbor, rebuke them when they sin, breaking the commandments of God, so they don't suffer sin upon them. Not hating your neighbor, but anyways rebuking them. Jehovah, Deuteronomy 18, his testimony of his son he will put his words in his son's mouth and give you commandments. And whoever doesn't listen to that prophet and what he commands, Jehovah will require of you. Acts 3, 18-23. Whoever doesn't listen to that prophet and be converted, so their sins can be blotted out in the times of refreshing of the holy covenants, he will destroy among the people. He'll consume. Isaiah 65 and 66. Those doing idolatry, standing behind one tree, filling their vessels with abomination, swine's flesh, not eating clean, will be consumed with fire, along with the mouse, the pagan idolatry. 1 Samuel chapter 6. Because Jehovah doesn't change in Malachi 3, so you know his judgment. So Jacob, his servant, is not consumed, because they know his judgment, who have the Father's name written on their forehead. Isaiah 30. The heart of a lot of people They say to the prophets, see not. Don't preach to us hard things. Preach to us smooth things. Once saved, always saved. You're saved by lasciviousness, Jude 1:4. Undeserved favor, unmerited favor. They trusted in their lying, Jeremiah 23 pastors, the men who crept in unawares, turning the grace of God into lasciviousness, their unmerited favor. So they sinned despite on his spirit of grace. So grace can abound in Hebrews 10 verse 29 through 30 and Romans chapter 6 verse 1. Revelations 13 talks about the Antichrist who has horns like a lamb, doing lying signs and wonders, convincing them to make an image onto the beast that had a wound by the sword and did live, the false Messiah, a number of a man. Who's wise to know it? And behold, another beast coming up out of the earth, and had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. He exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and cast the earth and them which dwelleth therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, they should make an image to the beast, which had a wound by the sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small, great, rich, and poor, free and bound, to receive a mark in their right hands, a lie, and in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that hath the mark of the name of the beast, or the number of his name. For here is wisdom, let him that understandeth count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666, or in the Greek chi, chi, zay, xi, stigma, stigma. Christ pierced on cross, your crucifix, your Jesus. For idolatry is the sin unto death in 1 John 5, and the second commandments. Do not have any idols, what was given to the Gentiles in Acts 15. To refrain from idolatry and fornication, things strangled, and to go in the synagogue on the Sabbath day and learn what Moses wrote, which had the testimony Jehovah gave of his son, that he would give him everything desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly, the 10 commandments, that he would require of them. Going into chapter 14, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having the Father's name, Jehovah, written in their foreheads. The Father's name. The Christians forgot the Father's name for the name Baal by their dreams, by the lying signs and wonders. They say, Jesus, there's power in that name. They ignore the warnings of their Bible. They ignore their Messiah's words. Do not be deceived, Matthew 24. There's going to be many Messiahs that come after him proclaiming to be him, that say, go look in the desert where they thirst. There's no life-giving water, because the churches fall away. They will not endure sound doctrine in the ends, but gather around themselves teachers having itching ears, and will be turned on to fables. 2 Timothy chapter 3 and 4. They turn the grace of God into lasciviousness. Thou wilt, and you're still saved. Not circumcising your heart to want to do the will of God, to be obedient unto his true Sabbath, his mark on his children, but worshiping with their traditions of men. So they can never come to the truth that they might be saved, 2 Thessalonians 2, because they reject his knowledge. Yeshua said, I desire mercy over sacrifice and the knowledge of God over burnt offerings. He told you to go learn what that meant in Hosea chapter 4 verse 6 and Hosea chapter 6 verse 6 and 7. Because you reject his knowledge, he will reject you and your children. You reject his covenant, you will refuse to walk in it. You refused to do the good works that were before ordained, that you should walk in, the covenants of promise in Ephesians 2, that you might be saved, that you can be grafted in, so you can be grafted into the commonwealth of Israel, no longer aliens without hope and without God. And I heard a voice from heaven as the voice of many waters and as the voice of a great thunder. And I heard the voice of harpers harping with their harps, and they sung as it were a new song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32. Before the throne and before the four beasts and the elders, and no man can learn that song but the 144,000 which were redeemed from the earth, his servants who hold the testimony of Yeshua, for the testimony of Yeshua is prophecy. Your pastors don't know prophecy. They don't teach you prophecy. These were they which were not defiled with women, for they were virgins. They hold the key of David, the church of Philadelphia, the church of brotherly love. They love their neighbor as themselves. The key of David that Yeshua told the Pharisees in Matthew 12, that they would not accuse the blameless, to go learn what David did with the showbread, who refrained from women for 3 days. So he was shameless when he took the showbread, him and his men, on the Sabbath day. How the priests were sanctified and blameless on the Sabbath day. Who didn't bow to the image of Baal. These are they which follow the Lamb wherever he goeth. These were redeemed from among them, being the first fruits unto Jehovah and to the Lamb. Because they know the difference between the Father and the Son. For the Son always gave glory to the Father. He said, I came to do my Father's will, not my own will. He prayed to the Father. He always gave glory to the Father. The Father who sent me, he said. And in their mouth was found no guile, for they were without fault before the throne of Jehovah. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of the heaven, having the everlasting gospel to preach unto them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people, saying with a loud voice, Fear God, and give glory to him, Jehovah. How beautiful are the feet of them who preach the good tidings of good things. Romans 10, because the people have a zeal for God, but not according to knowledge. They reject his knowledge, so he will reject them. They're ignorant of Jehovah's righteousness, the 10 Commandments, and have established their own righteousness. So how do they believe on him who they have not heard, Yeshua, Joshua? And how will they believe without a preacher? Because of the falling away, the churches go apostate. The Jeremiah 23 pastors, the Ezekiel 34 pastors, the wolves in sheep's clothing that scatter his flock, preaching lies. The pastors and the prophets he did not send. He rises up the foolish things of this world, the weak things of this world, to confound those who think that they're wise and mighty. Because the self-righteous Christians, the prideful Torah observant Christians that went too far to the right, the Christians that went too far to the left, would not hearken on to him, would not come to his wedding supper. So he says, go out to the byways and the sideways, bring in the publicans and the harlots who will enter into the kingdom first, who have a humble and contrite heart, the heart of David in Psalms 51, who grieve over the sin that they committed against the Lord. Jacob, his servant, he turns iniquity away from, for they're not like them, Jeremiah 10. They don't do Christmas. They turn back to the old paths. They call his Sabbath a delight, Psalms 56 and 58. They turn their foot away from profaning his Sabbaths. How beautiful are their feet, Romans 10, quoting Isaiah 52. And they howl when they blaspheme Jehovah's name. For his people will know his name and have his name written on their foreheads, Jehovah. his son's name, who came in the Father's name, Yeshua, who publishes salvation, Isaiah 52, in the Strong's, Yeshua. Saying with a loud voice, fear God. For the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. And give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of waters. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen. Babylon, Ephraim, Isaiah 28, the drunkards, where there's no place clean. For this was the time of refreshing, but they would not hear the refreshing of the holy covenants to keep the 10 commandments. Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, her pagan idolatry, her Christmas, her Easter, her crucifixion, I can't even say it, the cross, who obey the Son, who keep his commandments. And this is life eternal, that they might know the only true God, and Yeshua, Messiah, whom thou hast sent, because the Father sent his Son. I have glorified thee on the earth. I have finished the work which thou gavest me to do. The work of the Father. And the Father doesn't change. He puts his words in his Son's mouth. He gave us commandments that we should live by, that he will require of us to keep. Deuteronomy 18, his testimony of his Son. I have glorified thee on thy earth. I have finished the work which thou hast given me to do. And now, O Father, glorify thou me with thy own self, with the glory which I had with thee before the world was. I have manifested thy name unto the men, which thou gavest me out of the worlds. Thine they were, and thou gavest them me, and they have kept thy word. Now they have known that all things whatsoever thou hast given me are of thee. For I have given unto them the words which thou gavest me, and they have received them, and have known surely that I came from out of thee, and they have believed that thou didst send me. I pray for them. I pray not for the worlds, but for them which thou hast given me, for they are thine. John 14. If you love me and keep my commandments, and I pray to the Father to send you another Comforter, the Spirit of truth, that the world cannot receive, neither knows or seeks any longer. Because 1 John chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, this is how we know him. When we keep his commandments, that's how he abides with you. And him who says he knows him and keeps not his commandments, Sunday worship, idolatry, flattering Jehovah with their mouth, but their heart is far from them. They haven't circumcised their heart to want to do the will of God, to obey his commandments. They reject his commandments. They say, I'm saved by lasciviousness, undeserved favor. I don't have to keep those commandments. I don't have to keep the Sabbath day. I can worship on Sunday. I don't have to keep the 4th commandment as Jehovah has commanded thee in Deuteronomy 5. I can work, I can buy, I can sell on the Sabbath. I can do my own personal pleasures on the Sabbath. I can wear a cross around in between my breasts, Hosea 2:2. Plead with your mothers to remove the adulteries between her breasts, your crucifix, Isaiah 44. The workman that stretches out his ruler, marks it with a line, makes an image of a man according to a beauty of a man. For their idols are silver and gold, and they have no breath in them. I can blaspheme Jehovah's name and take his name in vain, twisting the word of God with these 46,000 denominations, doing all commandments and traditions of men over the commandments of God, saying that once saved, always saved. Oh, we're in the new covenants. He's removed our stony hearts and put new hearts in our hearts with the 10 commandments written on them and the commandments written on our foreheads. He did away with sin. As the world waxes worse and worse, and their hearts grow colder. Look around you. Adultery, murder, idolatry is everywhere. Children are missing. Lying, stealing, cheating, everywhere. Look up the percentage of abortions in America, 70% are from Christians, Christian women, murdering their children. The fables they've been turned on to because they've forsaken the Holy Covenant. They don't understand that the grace of God is the conviction of God. It's a spirit that he pours upon your heart so you can reflect in your life to see what are you doing to break his commandments, to turn you from your sin if you listen to it. That's why the grace of God has appeared to all men. It was a free gift. He's given it to every man. You didn't have to earn it. He's given it to you freely to teach you to turn from your sin and your lust so you can keep his commandments and live righteously, walking in the commandments of God, to reprove the world of sin for those who love him and keep his commandments. He gives them the spirit of truth in John 14 to reprove the world of sin, to do righteous judgment, John 16, Leviticus 19, 15 through 18, and James 2, the royal law. To love your neighbor as yourself is to rebuke the sin out of them so they don't suffer the wrath of God, so they don't fall away to the man of perdition, to where they have the man of perdition's name written on their foreheads, Jesus Christ, because we're not like them who turn back to perdition. Hebrews 10. And all of mine are thine, and thine are mine, and I am glorified in them, and now I am no more in the world, but these are in the world, and I come to thee, Holy Father. Keep through thy own name, for there's only one name under heaven that you will be saved by. You can have the Father's name written on your forehead, or you can have the man of perdition that says he's God, oppositing himself of Jehovah, written on your forehead. You're Jesus Christ. There's 46,000 different versions, flavors of him that you can choose from. All divided, a house divided that's built on sand, not the rock at Horeb. For Yeshua is that cornerstone, that rock in 1 Corinthians 10. At Horeb, Deuteronomy 4 and 5, what the elders were baptized under that cloud in the midst of the fire. When Jehovah spoke to them with his voice, they heard a voice, they saw no similitude, and he declared unto them his covenant, his 10 commandments, which he wrote on 2 tables of stone with his own finger. Deuteronomy 4. You're supposed to build your house upon the rock of Horeb. Exodus 17, for they thirsted, they chided to Moses, they desired water to drink. The parable of the life-giving water, Yeshua told the Samaritan woman at the well about, who had 5 husbands representing the northern kingdom, Israel that was scattered to the 4 corners of the world, devoured by the Gentiles. She had other gods before Jehovah. He gave her the life-giving water, what they were baptized in under that cloud, the 10 commandments, the covenants. For Yeshua, in Luke 11, casted out demons with the finger of God. The finger of God wrote the 10 commandments on 2 tables of stone. He casted out demons with the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God is only given to those who obey God and love him and keep his commandments. Matthew 28. He commanded them to baptize all in the name of the Father, Jehovah, the Son, Yeshua, and the Holy Ghost, given to those who obey God and keep his commandments. Teaching them all that I have commanded, to love God and love your neighbor, to keep the 10 commandments, and teach your neighbor to keep the 10 commandments by rebuking the sin out of them. Matthew 5, I didn't come to destroy the law or the prophets, but to fulfill what the prophets wrote he would do. Not one jot or tittle will pass from the law until all be fulfilled, and not all has been fulfilled. Isaiah 65 and 66, end time prophecy, when the Lord returns with fire, with his whirlwind, the 144,000 who have the Father's name written on their foreheads, that were redeemed from the earth to judge the worlds. When he returns with fire to plead with all flesh, those sanctifying themselves in their own righteousness, standing behind their Jeremiah 10 tree, their tree, eating swine's flesh and broth of abominable things, will be consumed. Isaiah 66. And when he renders his judgments, there will be a time. I'm just going to go there because I don't want to butcher it. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another. Because there remains a rest to the people of Jehovah. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 9, that rest in the Strongs is Sabbath. There remains a Sabbath to the people of Jehovah, and his Sabbath didn't change. His son rose on the Sabbath. That is why he's Lord of the Sabbath. Daniel 9, verse 27, he confirmed the covenants he was prophesied to give us with many for 1 week, the covenant at Horeb, the 10 commandments, and he ceased sacrifice, the sacrificial law, midweek Wednesday. He gave them the sign of Jonah. He'd be in the earth 3 days and 3 nights. And when the Marys came to the tomb in Matthew 28, it was yet dark before the dawning of the first day of the week, Sunday, because his Sabbath is dawn Saturday to dawn Sunday. A day begins at dawn. He was already gone. He was already out of the tomb, and the angels rebuked the Marys because he rose on the Sabbath. Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Thursday night, Friday morning, Friday night, Saturday, 3 days and 3 nights. You cannot get 3 days and 3 nights from Friday evening to before dawning of the first day of the week. No, that's the man of perdition, the opposite himself of Jehovah that's gained intelligence with you, that the churches, the Jeremiah 23 pastors teach you, that we do Sabbath on Sunday because he rose on Sunday. That is a lie. Deuteronomy 18, Jehovah's testimony of his son, and the prophet who whatever he spoke, if it did not come to pass, we should not fear him. If he didn't rise after 3 days and 3 nights, per scripture, per their own gospel, a Christian gospel, 1 Corinthians 15, per the scriptures that they don't even believe, they don't believe per scripture. If it didn't come to pass, he would be a false prophet. Their capital P prophet isn't the Messiah written in the Bible, because they make Jehovah a liar. They don't believe in the testimony that he gave of his son in Deuteronomy 18. They don't keep the commandments of God. Their rock is not my rock. They cover with a covering, but it's not my covering. They have a lie in their right hands. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord, in the new kingdom. Because the new covenants that he will make, when he takes that stony heart out of them and replaces it with a fleshly heart, with the covenants written on their heart, the law on their hearts and in their minds, so all will know him. Because this is how we know him, when we keep his commandments. 1 John chapter 2, verse 3. In the new kingdom, we will be keeping the Sabbath. We will be keeping the covenants. Oh, if they would have a heart in them to keep my commandments always. Deuteronomy 5, what he desired, what the people desired. They didn't desire the sacrificial law. That's why they recognized the Son when he came, because he gave them what was desired at Horeb in the day of the assembly, saying, love God, love your neighbor, magnifying those 2 commandments as the prophets prophesied he would do. And they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh, the least in the kingdom. Matthew 5. If any of them break one of these least commandments and teach others to, they will be least in the kingdom of heaven. And if you keep them and teach others to keep them, love God, love neighbor, you will be great in the kingdom of heaven. This is why he says in John 5 to search the scriptures, for in them you'll find your eternal salvation. And what was testified of him. And if you don't believe Moses' writings, how shall you believe my words? The Christians don't believe a word their Messiah said, because they say, judge not or be judged. They're respecters of persons, so they commit sin. They don't keep his second commandment. They don't love their neighbor as themselves. They don't rebuke the sin. They say, judge not or be judged. They're hypocrites. They're whitewashed tombs. They flatter Jehovah with their mouth, but their heart is far from him. They don't have the commandments written on their hearts. What Yeshua rebuked the Pharisees for in Matthew 15 and Mark 7. They do unrighteous judgment. They judge by the flesh. Don't drink, don't smoke, don't curse. But then they're saved by lasciviousness, undeserved favor. So it doesn't matter what they do. They can break the commandments of God, but how dare you curse? How dare you drink? How dare you smoke? Because they're ignorant of Jehovah's righteousness and have established their own righteousness. They have a covering, but it's not of Jehovah's covering. They say, stand by thyself, don't judge me, I'm holier than thou. That guy's not a righteous man. He's preaching the Bible while he's smoking. You're smoking Jehovah's nose that burns all day, you hypocrite. Psalms 109, hold not thy peace, O Jehovah, my praise. For the mouth of the wicked and the mouth of the deceitful are opened against me. They have spoken against me with lying tongue. They compass me about also with words of hatred, and fight against me without a cause. For my love, they are my adversaries, but I give myself unto prayer, and they have rewarded me evil for good and hatred for my love, because they hate those who rebuke in the gates. And you will be hated for Jehovah's righteousness' sake, the righteousness of God, preaching the 10 Commandments, to loving your neighbor when you rebuke the sin out of them. They will hate you for it. Acts 5:32 and 33. And we are witnesses along with the Holy Ghost given to those who obey God. And when they heard that, they were cut to the heart and looked to slay them. Isaiah 30. They say to the seers, see not. They say to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things, prophesy deceits. Turn aside the Holy One of Israel. Let him not stand before us. Yeshua. Give us hippie Jesus. We want hippie Jesus. Our Christmas Jesus guy. Said thou a wicked man over him. And let Satan stand at his right hand, the mark. Revelations 13, Revelations 14. The mark of the beast. Let Satan stand at his right hand. When he shall be judged, let him be condemned, and let his prayers become sin. Let his days be few, and let another take his office. Let his children, son of perdition, child of Apollyon. Let his days be few, and let another take his office. Let his children be fatherless, and his wife a widow. Let his children be continually vagabonds and beg, and let them seek let them seek their bread also out of their desolate places. For the cause of the fatherless and the widow is because they break the commandments of God, so the plagues are appointed to them. The wrath of God is appointed to those children of disobedience. Romans 13, he puts their leaders over them to punish them for breaking his covenants, for being disobedient. Let the extortioner catch all that he hath, and let the stranger spoil his labor. Let there be none to extend mercy unto him, neither let there be any to favor his fatherless children, because you guys want it. You guys want it so. You want it so. You don't want to be judged. You say judge not or be judged. You don't want to be righteously judged. You don't want to be corrected in your error. You don't want to hear that you got to keep the commandments of God. You want to think that you're saved by undeserved favor, that you can continue to sin and be forgiven. Instead of listening to the conviction of God, his grace he pours upon your heart to turn you from your sin. You created altars to sin, so more altars will be onto them to sin. That's what you created. So sin despite on his spirit of grace, so grace can abound, and then you sear your conscience with a hot iron. Because you're stiff-necked, sottish children that will not hear the law of the Lord. You have stony hearts. You don't grieve for the sin that you did against Jehovah. You don't have the heart of David, a humble and contrite heart, to want to do the will of God. You don't want to be obedient unto those 10 commandments. You don't want to have to give up your fun Saturday, your shopping sprees on Saturday, you're going out with your friends on Saturday, your barbecues and your personal pleasures. You don't want to do that. You don't want to give up your Christmas and your Easter and your man's traditions, your idolatry. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be obedient unto him. You don't want to give up your covetousness. You want to paint your face every single day, even though it's vanity. Jeremiah 4, Isaiah 3 and 13, and Revelations 2:20. Jezebel painted her face, plaited her hair, using her wiles to manipulate men to do her will. Testament of Reuben chapter 2, woman. You don't want to be like Sarah, the daughter of Sarah, who is meek and quiet, not adorning the outwards of herself, but obedient unto Jehovah's commandments, doing the good works, keeping the 10 commandments, not bearing false witness with your lie, your painted face lie. Vanity, your covetousness, coveting beauty. You're not satisfied with how Jehovah has made you to be. You cover beauty and a look that you don't have. You don't want to give any of that up. You don't want to give up usurping your authority over your husband. You don't want to be obedient unto your husband as unto the Lord. That 1 Peter 3 wife, Ephesians 5 wife. You don't reverence your husbands. You don't reverence them at all. You want to be in charge. Your pastors have become brutish. They have not sought the Lord. They don't teach you how to be godly women. They don't teach you to keep the 10 commandments. They don't teach you what the love of God is. They don't teach you how to love your neighbor. They've turned the love of God into a feeling and saying that loving your neighbor is just to be nice to them, giving them a sandwich, being cardinal. They don't rebuke you of your sin. They don't tell you to remove the adulteries between your breasts, your crucifix, your idolatry. They have the image made onto the beast on every single church building, for Satan will deceive the world and be worshipped above God. You don't want to know that you've been deceived. You don't want to know that Satan sits at your right hand side, that you have a lie in your hands. The Lord said unto my Lord, Jehovah, capital O-R-D, the Lord. Jehovah said unto my Lord, lowercase O-R-D, sit thou at my right hand, until I make thy enemies thy footstool, because Yeshua is not God. He's not the Father. He's the Son of God. There is a separation. Zechariah 3, high priest Joshua sitting before the Lord in filthy garments because he ended that sacrifice, right? Taking the sins of our father unto him. He had covered in blood. The Lord shall send the rod of thy strength of Zion. Rule thou in the midst of thy enemies. Thy people shall be willing in the day of thy power, in the beauties of the holiness from the womb of the morning. Thou hast the dew of thy youth, and the Lord has sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever after the order of Melchizedek. Your Messiah. The Lord at thy right hand shall strike through kings in the day of his wrath. He shall judge among the heathen. He shall fill the places with the dead bodies, and he shall wound the heads over many countries. He shall drink of the brook in the way, therefore shall he lift up the head. Psalms 111. Praise you, the Lord, Jehovah. I will praise Jehovah with my whole heart in the assembly of the upright and in the congregation. The works of the Jehovah are great, sought out of all them that have pleasure therein. His work is honorable and glorious, and his righteousness endureth forever. His righteousness, Deuteronomy 6, the 10 commandments. He hath made his wonderful works to be remembered. The Lord Jehovah is gracious and full of compassion. He has given meat unto them that fear him. Fear him. He will ever be mindful of his covenants, the 10 commandments. He has showed his people the power of his works, that he may give them the heritage of the heathen. The works of his hands are verity and judgment. The works of his hands are true and judgment. All his commandments are sure. They stand fast forever and ever, and are done in truth and uprightness. He sent redemption unto his people. He hath commanded his covenant forever. Holy and reverend is his name. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and good understanding have all they that do his commandments. His praise endureth forever. I'm going to go to Psalms 144. Blessed be the Lord, my strength, which teacheth my hands to war and my fingers to fight, my goodness and my fortress, my high tower and my deliverer, my shield, and he is whom I trust, who subdueth my people under me. Lord, what is man? Jehovah, what is man, that thou taketh knowledge of him, or the Son of Man, that thou makest account of him? Man is like to vanity. His days are as a shadow that passeth away. Bow thy heaven, O Jehovah, and come down. Touch the mountains, and they shall smoke. Cast forth lightning and scatter them. Shoot out thy arrows and destroy them. Send thy hands from above. Rid me and deliver me out of the great waters, from the hand of strange children. Because the strange children have Satan at their right hands, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. You have a lie in your right hand when you say, Jesus is God. You're the children of perdition, the child of perdition. And 2 Thessalonians 2. I will sing a new song unto thee, O Jehovah. Upon a psaltery and an instrument of 10 strings will I sing praises unto thee. It is he that giveth salvation unto kings, who delivereth David his servant from the hurtful sword. Rid me and deliver me from the hand of strange children, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. Take our sons may be as plants grown up in their youth, that our daughters may be as cornerstones polished after the similitude of a palace, that our garners may be full, affording all manner of store, that our sheep may bring forth thousands and 10,000s in our streets, that our oxen may be strong to labor, and that there be no breaking in nor going out, that there be no complaining in our streets. Happy is that people that is in such a case. Yes, happy is that people whose God is Jehovah. Revelations chapter 3. Verse 7, and to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth, and no man shutteth, and shutteth, and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it. For thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. They don't deny the true name, Jehovah, and his son's name, Yeshua, or Joshua in English. Because thou, or hold on. Behold, I will make them of the synagogues of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world, to try them that dwell upon the earth. Behold, I will come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that let no man take thy crown, because they hold the key of David. Him that overcome will I make a pillar to the temple of my God, and he will go no more out. And I will write upon him the name of my God, Jehovah, and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which cometh down out of heaven from my Jehovah, from my God, and I will write upon him my new name. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. Revelations 22:14. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates to the city. For without are the dogs, and the sorcerers, and the whoremongers, and the murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth to make a lie. I Yeshua, have sent my angel to testify unto these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. And the Spirit and the bride say, come. Let him that heareth say, come. And let him that is athirst come. And whosoever will, let him take the water of life freely. If you want to enter into life, you need to be born again. Yeshua told Nicodemus he must be born again, or he cannot go to the kingdom of God. He quoted Jeremiah 10. They must be born again or they cannot go, because they have that Christmas tree honoring the winter solstice on December 25th. You have to kill the old man and be born into life, walking in the commandments of God. You cannot put new wine in old wine skins. You cannot continue to walk after the prince of the world, the lust of the worlds, the child of disobedience that the wrath is appointed to in Ephesians 2. No, you have to be born again, entering into covenants, eating clean, keeping the 10 commandments, loving God, loving your neighbor, and rebuking the sin out of them, fulfilling the royal law. If you fulfill the royal law, you do well. And there's no law against you. But if you're respecters of persons, you commit sin. Because Ezekiel chapter 3, if you don't warn them of their sin, they're going to die in their iniquity. And then Jehovah requires their blood at your hands, because you hate your neighbor in your heart. You don't, in other words, rebuke them. You say, judge and not or be judged. You haven't removed the log out of your eye. You haven't entered into life, keeping the commandments, so you can remove the log from your neighbor's eye. So he can abide with you. So he can send you that second comforter, the Spirit of truth in John 14. So he can purify you unto himself, peculiar people, zealous of good works in Ephesians 2. By worshiping him in spirit and in truth, listening to his spirit of grace, turning away from your sin, and walking in the commandments of God, so he abides with you, so he can teach you and bring all things to remembrance of what he said unto you. His word. Sanctifying you in the word. So you can teach others. You can be light to others. The fruit of the righteous become a tree of life. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 30. For Yeshua is the vine and we are the branches. Romans 11. He didn't spare the original branches. He cut them off because they did pagan idolatry. They wouldn't hearken unto him. They would not obey him. James 2. Faith without works is dead. Abraham, Noah, all these great men, they showed their faith by their works. They obeyed what Jehovah had commanded them to do. Tribulation is right around the corner. If you do not hearken unto Jehovah, you don't enter into life, you don't start keeping the commandments of God, keeping the Saturday to dawn Sunday, his mark, you will not have the mark of God. If you continue to blaspheming his name, calling his son by the name Baal, Jesus, the one that came in his own name that deceived the worlds, where you have Jesus written on your forehead, the beast, the man of perdition, the child of perdition, where you have a lie in your right hands, falsehood, where you cover with a covering that is not his, because you don't keep the 10 commandments. You're the child of perdition, the lawless one. You're going to be consumed with fire. The wrath of God is appointed to you. You are not going to be whiffed away. No. The hour of temptation is not appointed to the 144,000 who has the Father's name written on their foreheads. The church of Philadelphia, who is holy, who holds the key of David, who does not deny his name, who knows the song of Moses. There's only one church. And that is the straightisthegate.net, who holds the key of David, that has the Father's name written on their foreheads, he's given them the rod of iron. Don't have a lie in your right hand. Don't be a child of perdition, but be a child of God. Bear his mark, his Sabbath, dawn Saturday to dawn Sunday, his mark. Write the commandments on your hand for a sign. Deuteronomy chapter 6, what his son quoted when he said to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Keep the commandments in your heart. Teach them to your children. When they rise up, when they walk by, when they lie down, bind them on your hand for a sign. And if you do them, it will be your righteousness. Verse 25 of that chapter. And if you don't hearken unto this, Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 30, when you find yourself in tribulation in the latter days, turn back to his voice. And he gave the 10 commandments with his voice at the rock of Horeb. It's an idiom to keep his commandments.